has been the director of membership with the ICF since 2008. So he knows a lot about the ICF and the membership and all of that great stuff. So he's really going to be able to help you with your questions. Now, prior to that, he had an 18-year career in Olympic sports, most notably on the United States Olympic Committee, where he supported Olympic athletes by investing in their training to reach their potential at the Olympic Games. Additionally, he served on the international relations team at the USOC. So Don's got a really extensive background of really helping people reach their potential. So Don, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us on today's call.
Thanks, Heather. Wouldn't miss it. Love it.
We love having you. Don does this about 3 to 4 times every year, and we know that he doesn't have to, so we really appreciate that he takes time out of his busy schedule to work with us today to get your questions answered. So with that said, let's dive right in. And while I look at all the different questions that are coming in, maybe Don, you could start by explaining what actually is the ICF and why is it so important?
Yeah, thanks, Heather. Appreciate it. And so really the ICF is the Professional Association for Coaches Worldwide. We're just over 40,000 members in over 140 countries worldwide. We have approximately 30,000 credential holders in just as many of those countries. And primarily, again, we're a membership body, and we do have a credential, but we do also, and this is a real big part of what we do, is we accredit coach training programs such as IPEC. And IPEC is what we call an accredited coach training program, meaning it's comprehensive in everything they do. Everything is soup to nuts. They are doing it all. And I'm proud to say, even though I'm not allowed to endorse any particular program, I'm very familiar with IPEC and what they do and their number of graduates that are out there, and they are doing a fine job in the coaching space. So I'm really proud to be here and be a part of this. And just want to say one more thing about ICF. So we're growing as an organization. We have a chapter structure of about over 100 plus chapters and about 70 countries as well. So we're constantly growing larger and larger, but I do want to say this. I do want to stop and say this. So I have been here, actually I've been here a little bit longer than 2008. I started in 2007 mid-year, and I'm coming up on 13 years here. And what I've experienced in my 13-year career here is really ICF being part of the evolution, not the revolution per se, but the evolution of the coaching industry to where it is today. And we have a great credentialing program here, which I have also witnessed go from about 2,500 credentials to 30,000 now. And it's really regarded as the premier credential worldwide. And I say that to not sound boastful or haughty or anything like that. It is what it is, and it truly is a differentiator in the coaching marketplace today. So I will end at that and say I'm just really pleased to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're very pleased to have you here, Don. And we love working with the ICF because I think when a training program or a school like IPEC works with the governing body, it creates amazing synergy, because really what both organizations are trying to do is to have really well qualified coaches out there in the profession. So again, thank you for taking time out of your day to be here and to answer our questions. I do have some great questions coming in. So if you're ready, I'm gonna let them fly. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Sometimes we get some stumpers. So Don and I, sometimes we're just like, oh, that's a really good one. So let's see. We've got some here from, I could be mispronouncing your name. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Elena. Okay, I was reading the last name. Elena would like to know, she says, can I start with paid barter hours with external clients while I am still a student of IPEC?
So yes, you can do bartered coaching. So coaching and exchange for coaching. Outside, the only requirement is that has to take place outside of the four walls, if you will, of the coaching experience at whatever coach training program you're enrolled in right now. That's how it's counted. And there also is a peer coaching program that we put on at ICF as well, which is all about bartered coaching. So those do count as paid coaching hours.
Okay, great. So just to make sure I understand, my understanding of the rule is as long as you're enrolled in an accredited coach training program, a program that's been accredited by the ICF, then any additional hours that you're doing with any clients count towards the hours that you want to apply towards your ICF credential, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Elena, if that did not answer the question that you are asking, please go ahead and type clarifier and we will take a look for it. And that goes for everybody's question. If we answer the question and you say to yourself, that's great, it's not really what I was asking, feel free to type a clarifier and we will try again, okay? We have another question here. When will I be able to receive the ACC credential if I am still a student of IPEC?
So you want to wait until you graduate from IPEC in order to then go and apply for the ACC credential. And provided you have taken the entire IPEC training program, which would count as the full, what we call ACTP, and I'm not going to get into all the acronyms, but it stands for Accredited Coach Training Program. Your pathway to receiving that credential would be pretty turnkey, since you've already done mentoring and things of that nature at IPEC. It would be about a 4-week window of time from start of the application to completion of the credential. And also want to say one thing, we do have digital badges now and people are using them on LinkedIn and I love it. And if you haven't seen it, go in there and take a look. But we're really proud of that. So it's about a 4-week process. And that's really the process to go.
Awesome. Okay. I'm seeing a few different questions that kind of have the same theme. So I'm going to kind of group it in. And I'm going to use Michael's as the example, but it's kind of an overarching. Michael is asked to explain the relationship between ICF and IPEC. And does ICF make IPEC more credible? Are any of the credentials achieved in IPEC accredited by the ICF? By going through IPEC, is a coach also a part of ICF? So Don and I are gonna pass those back and forth because I'm gonna take it out of the realm of just IPEC. I'll answer it in relation to IPEC, but it's more overarching, having to do with schools. So the ICF, the International Coach Federation, is the governing body. They accredit programs like IPEC, and IPEC has got like the gold standard of accreditation. We include enough training hours that takes you all the way through getting your MCC with the ICF. I know it starts to turn into alphabet soup, so everybody stick with me. So there's the ACC, the PCC, and the MCC. Those are credentials that you apply for with the ICF once you have a certification from a program like IPEX. Now, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole. I'm just going to touch on this so that you can understand the rest of the answers to all the rest of these questions. A program that is accredited by the ICF, there are still differences within that program. So like I said, IPEX includes everything that you're going to need to get for your training hours to get all the way through that MCC. It won't include everything you need for your experience hours because you have to get those things on your own. And that's true of any coach training program. No coach training program can include all of your experience hours. It's part of the balance that the ICF requires. They require the training and then they require you to actually go out and do the coaching, okay? But programs or schools like IPEX all have different, they include different hours, amount of hours of training. So I'm going to use IPEX as the example. Like I said, we include enough to get you all the way through MCC, okay? Different schools include different levels of hours. They might include your mentor coaching. They might not. They might include all kinds of different components. So it's important that you compare the schools. But it's not that the ICF makes IPEC more credible. It's that the ICF is the governing body. They set the standards, professional standards, as to what exactly coaching is and the ethical requirements. Don, maybe you could explain more about that, and then we'll take the rest of Michael's questions that he's got in there.
Sure. Like Heather said, we do accredit programs. And I do want to say one thing. So if you are in the business of looking for an IPEC type school, you want to make sure that to go through the accredited path, if you will, that you're going to complete the entire program, meaning all the way through certification. Because if you stop short and don't take that certification module, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Heather, because I'm assuming certification is a separate module. I think, that you would have to go through another path, which is a little bit longer and a little bit more, there's a few more requests in terms of getting mentoring hours and making sure you have a coach about an assessment or an evaluation of your coaching skills. So just want to point that out. But if you are taking the entire program, the process is pretty much turnkey. Yes, you have to go out and get the X number of client hours in order to apply for that particular credential. But that would be all you'd have to do, other than submitting your certificate of having graduated and then being scheduled for and completing the coach knowledge assessment. So I hope I didn't confuse that too much.
No, it's a good question, because it's a little bit confusing until you start to really understand the difference between the ICF and a coach training program and what that actually means. It's understandable that there would be confusion. So when you go through IPEC, we actually include 3 certifications, and the one Don is talking about would be the CPC, so that's Certified Professional Coach. Once you finish IPEC's part of the program and you have your CPC, that's your first certification, you can then apply to the ICF for Credential. Okay, so Michael, and other people who are asking, as I'm seeing the questions coming in, the question was, by going through IPEC, is a coach also a part of the ICF? No, because they're 2 separate entities. Okay, you have your school and you have the ICF. So once you have your certification from a school like IPEC's, meaning we are ACTP accredited, we are bumper to bumper, we include everything that you're going to need, you would then take that certification and you would apply to the ICF for whatever level of credential you are able to apply for. And that's where your experience hours come in. So the ACC, the PCC, and the MCC all have different requirements for your experience hours. Earlier, Elena was asking about when can she get her ACC. So Elena is going to take that certification that she gets from us, and she's then going to apply to the ICF for her ACC once she has all of her experience hours. Now, by the time she finishes the program, she might do what I did. She might have enough experience hours to immediately just apply for her PCC, skip the ACC. So that's an option as well. You don't have to start with the ACC and then move your way along if you don't want to. So when Michael asked the question, by going through IPEC, is a coach also a part of ICF? No, and that's true of any coach training program you go through. I have seen some programs out there that say that they include the ICF certification. I don't know how they're doing that, because it would still be the same process. They would have to just take your money up front and maybe fill out the application ahead of time. But if you're looking at one of those programs, I invite you to ask them, how is that possible? Because the ICF and a coach training program are separate entities and they do different functions. Okay, so Michael, if we didn't get all of those questions answered, or anybody else who had a similar question, feel free to throw it back in, put in a clarifier, and we will try again. Okay. Okay, so we've got another question here. Elena would like to know, can we receive oral confirmation from the client for using their personal information to log the experience hours?
So the answer to that is you will have to get confirmation from the client to make sure you're going to log that person's coaching hours. Meaning, and I will say this, we're doing things a different way because of GDPR, and that's the European privacy policy that we've adopted at ICF, in that in order to apply for the credential, when we're asking for example, the ACC credential requires 100 coaching experience hours or client hours. We are no longer asking you to do anything more than attest that you have completed those 100 hours and swear to it, and also that we, ICF, reserves the right to audit you on that. But otherwise, you are attesting to that, because we don't want to handle and hold on to all those coaching logs. There's not a place for them to hold on to them in perpetuity, if you will. So we're asking you to hold on to those. And so, yeah, part of the process is you would have to ask your client, hey, I want to make sure that as we're doing these sessions that I can count your sessions and put your name on this particular document that I'm only holding, but I would have to potentially show it to ICF if they asked me during an audit to show that to them. I hope that helps.
It's my understanding with the new GDPR and privacy protection rules that we're, at least IPEC, I know IPEC is putting this into place. We protect everybody's data extremely to the frustration sometimes of some people, but we are very protective of people's private information. So it's my understanding that that switched for the ICF of we all as coaches, we hang on to that private information, and then it is only during an audit that it might be shared, and that we need to make sure our clients know that's the only time that it would be shared. That's what you're saying, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, great. Wanted to make sure that we all understood. Okay, great. So I've got another question here. I want to say that your name is Layla. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Layla is wanting to know, is there a time limit between completing your certification, let's say with IPEC, so you get your certification from IPEC, and applying for your credential at the ACC level, PCC, or MCC level with the ICF?
No. Your coaching, your training is good for forever.
Fantastic. Okay,
Yeah.
great. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Let's see. We have another one here. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. Terry would like to know, Terry says, I am exploring coach certification and haven't entered into a program yet. Could you share the coaching trend that is occurring in the USA and worldwide? What trajectories are you seeing?
In terms of what? If you could just provide a little bit more information. I mean, well, I'll make a generalized statement. Yes, coaching is here. It's here to stay. It is being recognized as a profession around the world, and certainly across our country, the US and in Canada. In terms of businesses and end users, there's more and more of them hiring coaches. So external coaches are external to organizations, and they're coaching individuals, and they're even coaching individuals within organizations. And then there's a whole movement of internal coaches who are being hired within organizations to coach whomever, small teams, even individuals in the C-suite, things of that nature. And I will say one more thing. So if you are you said you were pursuing coach training, right? Am I right there?
In Terry's question, Terry says, I'm exploring a coaching certification, I would assume a coaching certification program, and haven't entered into a program yet.
So once you do, and once you graduate and come to ICF and become a member, we're going to have later this year, I think September 10th is a rollout of our 2020 Global Coaching Study, which was all done prior to COVID. And actually, we're going to do a follow-up survey, but on a much smaller basis, not post-COVID, where we are right now in the whole process, to see what kind of differences have occurred during this whole global outbreak. So it'll be interesting to see, because a lot of what we're tracking, and this is going to be done with it's already been done with PricewaterhouseCoopers. They're just finishing it up. But this will be the fourth global coaching study ICF has done over the years. And it'll be interesting to see what people have said earlier. Actually, last year, the data was gathered versus what we find this year when we do that much smaller sampling of where people are in their coaching journey. But it'll be a lot on by region, by country, by province, by state, of how many coaches there are, how much they're earning, how many hours they coach a week. A lot of really in-depth information that may be really helpful to you as coaches about certain trends that are going on, not only in the US and Canada, but around the world.
That's another great thing that being a member of the ICF gives you, is it gives you insight into all of these studies that the ICF does, all of the trends and the trajectories. And that's another great thing that the ICF is always doing, is they're always trying to get ahead of the curve to see what the world needs. And then they let all of us, as not just schools, but when I say all of us, I mean all of us certified coaches who are members of the ICF. There's local chapter meetings, there's ICF Global, there's all of that stuff. So that's another great reason to go ahead and join ICF, is to be part of all of that information. I'm going to mispronounce your name. I'm just going to apologize right up front. I think it's pronounced Yuan. So Yuan is asking, for folks who work with clients in 2 languages, does it affect how you log and recognize those experience hours?
I don't think so. No, you're still putting names on your own client coaching log, and the amount of time you've coached that individual by session. So I don't think there's a real difference, and it doesn't matter to us. Well, obviously you're going to attest that you've coached this many hours. But in terms of that client log, it doesn't matter if you're doing it in French and English, or, with individual clients speaking those specific languages. That's not an issue with us.
I love that question, though, because it's such a testament to that. We really have gone global. It's now a global world. You might be sitting in the USA, but your client might be in Paris, which is fantastic. You don't have, well, I would love to be in Paris, but you don't have to be in Paris to coach your client. And you could do it in French or in English, or and whatever language it is that the 2 of you speak. So I think that that's a fabulous testament to the trajectory of coaching, is that it really is a global profession. Layla is asking, she says, interestingly, some people suggest that an accredited course may not be entirely necessary. But in your opinion, does this impact the legitimacy of yourself as a coach? And is it possible to gain ICF membership without it?
So I'm not going to make the comment about the legitimacy. So if you're going to take, for example, 60 hours, which to me would be more of learning the skills. I know there's 60-hour programs out there. That's the minimum threshold to be a member at ICF. But I would certainly say that's more coaching skills than a comprehensive coaching program that we're talking about here with Ipek, where you're really doing a lot of work and you're really doing a deeper dive into all the competencies and code of ethics and really everything that coaching is all about. So I won't answer that, but certainly people, it's up to the individual in terms of what you're looking for. And what you want to do in terms of coaching.
No, I think that that's because there's so many nuances in that. There's so many nuances in the question. So, Layla, maybe you could give us a little bit more context in that, and then we could maybe give you a better, more specific answer. And so I think I heard you correctly, Dawn, in saying that you would need at least a minimum of 60 hours of training in order to be a member of the
Mhm,
ICF. Okay.
mhm.
Okay, great. Perfect. Um, let's see, we've got, I don't know who this is. It's listed as anonymous attendee. So very mysterious. Does my coaching experience before joining IPEC, and I'm going to substitute that and say any accredited coach training program, does my coaching experience before joining any accredited coach training program count towards my ICF credentialing?
So let me answer it this way. Provided you hadn't completed another coach training program before that, um, you would not be able to count any hours that were just done without any particular training that you that we would recognize having having occurred. You would not be able to include those coaching hours.
Okay, so that would be like Nancy and a few other people are asking this question.
Mm,
So I'm gonna group these together.
yep.
We have a few people that are saying they completed different levels of coach training in 2005, 2013. So any experience hours that they did after attending some form of ICF approved training, those experience hours would count?
Correct. Now, I don't want to backtrack on this because I don't know the specific. So I'm going to say yes. If there was a 60-hour program, or you had completed 60 hours that was comprehensive in terms of sequence and scope and what you were learning, more than likely, yes, that would qualify. And it was under the guise of what we would call one of our accredited programs, or one that we um, have listed over the years. I'm going to say yes. But if not, if it was piecemeal, 20 hours here, 30 hours here, I'm not going to weigh in on that. That's something you're going to have to ask our credentialing staff on
Okay.
about, since that is a little bit more granular, and I don't want to be misquoted here.
Okay, so just to make sure we understand correctly, if you did start an accredited coach training program in a previous year, your experience hours most likely count, but the best way to get that question answered is for people to individually reach out to the ICF, explain their exact situation, and then they'd be able to get a better answer. Because I agree with Don. I'm seeing
Yeah.
a lot of questions having to do with this. It's just, we can't give a blanket, or Don can't give a blanket answer because he doesn't know the exact ins and outs of every situation. And we can't really get into every situation here in a group call.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it'd be better for all of you guys to reach out individually to the ICF and ask them those specific questions. Okay. All right, so the rest of the questions here, and you guys are asking great questions, by the way, and they're coming in so fast. I'll have one in mind to ask, and then it'll scroll up, and I'll be like, oh, where did that question go? So I appreciate your patience while I try to find questions, the one that I had my eye on as it scrolls, because I want to try and get through as many of these questions as possible. Oh, good. Layla says, no need to clarify for me. Thanks so much. You are very welcome, Layla. Glad that we were able to answer your question. Let's see. So I've seen a few questions go by talking about the ACTSH path and the portfolio path and all of
Mhm.
those things. Can
Mhm.
we touch a little bit on the difference between the different paths to ICF credentialing? So like IPEC's program, we're ACTP accredited. And remember, gentle reminder, just because a school is ACTP accredited does not make them all exactly the same. So if once you
Yeah.
decide that you want like a bumper to bumper program like IPEC's, you're going to want to then look and see what do they include, what's important to you, what's their methodology. If you haven't downloaded it yet, I highly recommend downloading our guide. It's called the 9 Keys, the 9 Key Considerations for Choosing the Right Coach Training Program. The last page of it is even a chart that we give you so that you can compare different programs and what it is that they include. It's really handy. I used it when I was trying to choose a coach training program, so I know it's really handy. So there's the ACT path, which is a program like IPEC that's going to be more bumper to bumper. But I'm seeing lots of questions asking about the other types of paths. So maybe Don, you could speak a little bit to that.
Sure. And if you go to our website, coachfederation.org, under the credentialing tab, there is a sub-tab called Find Training. And what that is a directory of all the training programs that ICF either accredits or approves. I'm going to use that term approve because it's more about what you were talking about before, ACSTH. So the program Heather and I have been talking about here is IPEC's program, bumper to bumper. And I'm not going to, don't quote me on how many hours, but it goes all the way through the certification process, whether it's, I'm just going to call it the first certification, CPC. Is that correct?
So CPC is Certified Professional Coach, and then you also get a certification in our assessment, which is a game changer. We can talk more about that on a different call, because again, I want to keep it focused on the ICF. And then we also have our master's program, which goes above and beyond continuing education. So we've got that third certification, which really speaks to honing down into your specialty. But the first thing you would do is become a certified professional coach so that then you can gain the knowledge to do the other two certifications.
Perfect. So so that's the description of an ACTP program. And really the big stipulation is you have to complete, not only you have to complete the entire program as it's listed on our training program search service. So take a look at that. And what Heather's saying about the CPCC, that, that would get you in as well. And I strongly encourage you to take a look at that. Now, when you start talking about ACSTH, that's more a niche-based coaching approach where there's going to be bits and pieces, but not the whole comprehensive picture of training included in that program. Why we designate it like that, I can't give you the exact rationale because I'm not from the credentialing team, but I've been around long enough to know that it stops short. There's some other stipulations on trainers and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to get into any of those details. That's another path to follow. Portfolio path means that you've taken a training program that is not ICF accredited, and it has to meet a three-part test of be taught in accordance with the core competencies, code of ethics, and meet our definition of coaching. And it has to provide X number of hours in core competencies, code of ethics, depending on which credential you're applying for, ACC, PCC, or MCC. And it also, sometimes it has CCEs that are included as well as continuing coach education units. And I don't mean to lose anybody here, but this is where it gets a little confusing. So those are the three paths. As it relates to the paths, if you look how much time it takes to go through them, the accredited path is a 4-week path from start to finish when you apply for a credential to receiving the credential. The two other paths, ACTP, portfolio, are 14-week application process is from start to finish, because we need to verify all that information. We need to ensure that the program you went through is who you say you completed it with. And there's just a whole process, because we have to look at mentor coaching, which has to be verified with an outside mentor coach. We also have to look at assessments that you have completed, and those are evaluations of coaching sessions as done by assessors. So there's a lot more that goes into the ACSTH path, and that's why it takes so long. Same with portfolio. It's going to take the same amount of time, where we even have to go out to schools and verify curriculum and all this. So it's a real labor-intensive process for us here at ICF that we have to go and research all that, but we do it gladly. But I will say, as it relates to speed, efficiency, and being able to go through a a credentialing process in a very efficient, effective, and time-sensitive process, ACTP is hands down the way to go. It's just so much easier. And if that's what depending on what your goals and objectives are for being a coach, that may be, so I'll leave it at that.
Just to clarify, because it does turn into alphabet soup, when Don is saying going the ACTP path, he means a program like IPEC that's bumper to bumper. Because then when you go to apply to the ICF and you have your certification, the reason why it only takes about 4 weeks to get your credential from the ICF, once you've submitted, know the level of education that you got, or whatever the ACTP program it is that you went to. They look that program up because they accredited it, and they, it's tongue twister.
ACSTHE.
Thank you.
That's okay. You're fine. You're fine.
You have to piecemeal it together. And so because everything has to be verified, it's going to take 4.
Heather, you're freezing up on my end. No. No.
We'll keep going and hope that Zoom can catch up with us. Okay, great. We might not be able to get to everybody's questions, so I am just going to gently give you guys a reminder. If you have a particular question that is specific to your situation, you will need to reach out to the ICF and ask them. I'm seeing a lot of questions come in saying, well, I have this from this school, and I did this through that has nothing to do with coaching, but I did this other program. Does this count? Those kinds of questions have to do with your particular individual situation, and it's kind of impossible for us to answer each of those in a group call. So it would be better for you to email those questions to the ICF and tell them exactly what you're asking here, and then they'll be able to answer that question as it pertains to your specific needs and requirements, okay? So we might not be able to answer those in this call today. But I do have a question, similar questions from Terry and anonymous attendee again. They were both wanting to know, it pertains to joining the ICF without having your certification yet, but being enrolled in a coach training program. So we'll use IPEC for example. If you're a student of IPEC, you're enrolled, you haven't finished and gotten your certification yet, can you go ahead and apply for membership to the ICF?
Absolutely, yeah. As long as you're enrolled in a 60-hour program, and hopefully a much larger program than that, yes, you can be an ICF member. We welcome you to be an ICF member.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, so either have completed 60 hours or be enrolled in a coach training program that is 60 hours or more, and you can go ahead and apply for your membership. And you at that point, you can also start counting your experience hours. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Fabulous. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and mark those complete so that I don't ask them again. Oh, Terry would also like to know, is there a glossary of all of these acronyms? I hear you, Terry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I apologize.
No, we all do it. Every school has their own acronyms as well. So what I can tell you, Terry, the ICF website lays it out really well. So you can go there for all of the ICF terminology. And then if you want to know specifically having to do with IPEC, with our school, you can always speak with an admissions coach and they can lay it all out for you as well. Because one of the reasons I didn't tell you like what are the acronyms for our 3 certifications is just because then it'll really be alphabet soup. So yes, each program should be able to get you a glossary of their terms, and the ICF has got a glossary of their terms right on their website. So good question. Elena would like to know, do we need to provide a transcript of the session for the exam? I'm going to make a leap here. I think she's asking about the coach knowledge assessment exam.
So no transcript necessary there. It's an online examination, 155 questions. You have 3 hours to complete it. But you may be referencing, you would need a transcript. So if you took any of those other 2 paths, ACSTH and portfolio, depending on which credential, actually all 3 credentials, ACC, PCC, or MCC, there's a requirement to submit a coaching session, which you would have to record, not only have to record it via audio, but also transcribe it word for word. And that's the transcription portion that you may be referencing.
Great. Okay, I didn't even think about that part of it. So thank you for filling in that gap. Carolyn is asking about continuing education requirements to maintain an ICF standing. So can we touch on a little bit of that? What do continuing education requirements look like?
So we do. Whenever you earn a credential, 3 years after the date of award, you would be required to either renew that credential, and it requires 40 hours of continuing education, 3 of which need to be in ethics, and there's an online ethics course that ICF offers, but also 24 of the hours have to be in core competencies, and 3 of those obviously can be in ethics, but the other 16 can be in resource development, and that's what is required to renew a credential. Now, many people in that 3-year time period decide to go, for example, ACC to PCC because they've got the required hours met, which goes from, and I know, Heather, you're going to say something about this, goes from 100 hours to 500 hours is the requirement for the PCC. And Heather can tell you a little backstory. But
what Don is alluding to is back in the day, it was 750 hours. That's when I got my PC. So when they dropped it down to 500, I might have been a little like, hey.
Unfairly penalized. But that's, excuse me, that's the requirement. And that's usually the path. Most of our coaches who come through, I think now are primarily looking at an ACC or PCC credential, and we'll take those steps to get there. In order to get apply for and receive an MCC, you have to at least have a PCC. You have to at least have gone through the PCC process and held that credential. Whether it's for a day or 3 years is up to you, or even through a renewal cycle. But that is the requirement to go and proceed to the MCC.
Mia is asking how to join a local chapter as an ICF member, where to find events of local chapters, and can members join events of other chapters in the US or overseas?
Yes, yes, and yes. So as you join ICF, you'll be given the opportunity to affiliate with one home chapter because they receive some type of rebate from us. And once you go through the online process, you'll understand, because it'll ask you in a drop down where you'd like to affiliate as your home chapter. But it's up to you if you travel or do business in other places, that you can affiliate with a second or even third chapter. You would just be required to pay any type of fees that they may ask for.
Okay, great. And I'm also seeing, okay, so I'm just going to touch on this now because we're almost out of time. I am seeing a lot of really great IPEC specific questions. I really, really, really want to answer. But again, because Don is here, I want to make sure that we really use up all of our time with Don. So maybe Jordan or Jenny, could you go ahead and post in the Q&A and on the chat how somebody could connect with an admissions coach, so that if we aren't able to get to, and just in the interest of time, we probably won't be able to get to a lot of the IPEC specific questions, you know how to get those questions answered. And please feel free to speak with an admissions coach. They're there to answer those questions. They are not salespeople. It's not going to be like you call and talk to them and say, they try to sell you anything and, get out your credit card. And Don can attest to this. And I can attest to this. Before ever working for IPEC, I was just like you guys, and I was trying to find the right coach training program. And I always thought every time I was going to get on with that admissions coach, boy, they were really going to try to get me to sign up. And they really didn't. They were just like, cool, do you have any other questions? Okay, great. Let me know how else I can help you. So I want everybody to just if you have any fear around that, please just set it down. IPEC is not like that. We're here to help you. We're here to answer your questions. So Jenny and Jordan will go ahead and post how you can connect with an admissions coach if you do have an IPEC specific question that's not answered during our hour here with Don. And please feel free to reach out to an admissions coach. If you're already working with an admissions coach, feel free to reach back out to them and they'll be happy to answer those questions for you. Okay. Okay, so let's go back here. Oh, this is an interesting question. Anonymous attendee is asking if the ICF has a ranking system for schools.
Ooh, no. In what regard? I mean, I'm
It just says, is there a
assuming
ranking for schools?
like some type of, you know, the #1 school in, you know, the world. No, we do not have any ranking system.
You know, we have a study that was done by a third party. It's a little out of date, but if you reach out to an admissions coach, they can supply it to you. We didn't do it. That's why it's out of date, because it would be weird if we did that. But there's an independent third party did a study of the top 10 coaching programs, and an admissions coach can supply that to you if you would like to have it. So please feel free to reach out to an admissions coach. Like I said, it's not recent, but I think that it's really still informative, because it will tell you the criteria also that they were looking at that time as to what makes a really good school and what doesn't make a really good school. Because again, we know that IPEC is a school of value, and Don himself has attested to that. It's also not necessarily the right program for absolutely everybody out there. And one thing that we are very transparent about here at IPEC is we want to make sure that you choose a program of value that gets you closer to your dreams and further on your path, whatever your vision of success is, and doesn't just leave you with, you know, less money in your pocket and no further towards your dreams. So we're happy to supply that for you if you would like to have it. Have another question here from, oh, I think I already answered this one. This person is asking, can members join events of other chapters overseas? Like if they're a member here in the US, can they join events that are, okay.
Absolutely, you could. They may charge a fee for it, but yes, you could.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through the questions, seeing which ones we've asked. You guys are asking great questions again. Okay, this one has to do with continuing education requirements. I think we answered that one. This person is asking, what does the ICF stand for? Meaning, is it International Coach Federation or International Coaching Federation?
So we have rebranded as the International Coaching Federation. It's really not known because we really haven't made a big deal out of it. But yes, that is occurred.
Was there any particular reason for the shift?
So we have a couple.
That's part of their question, by the way.
Sorry, and I apologize. Yes.
That's okay. I didn't ask it of you. That was my fault.
We have some new organizations, if you will, within ICF. One is Coaching in Organizations, run by a dear friend of mine in New Jersey. We also have the Thought Leadership Institute, a foundation. We've always had the foundation. And did I miss any? No, and we still have, and we split up credentialing. Used to be credentialing and accreditation together. Now that's credentialing and separately is accreditation. So that's just part of the overall game plan. You have to separate those two out if you want a certain designation on your credential, which we're aspiring to do. It's called ISO.
Yeah, that gets a little confusing too, along with the acronym. So a coach training school can be accredited. Our curriculum is accredited. A person gets a certification from an accredited coach training program, and then you get your credential from the ICF, right?
I know.
Yes, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry for all these. Yeah.
No, you guys, it's taken me a while, and I work in the industry to get it all straightened out. So if you are confused, it is completely normal. You are not alone. Akif is asking, what is the main difference between IPEC and other programs such as, and he lists a few different ones. Akif, that question is very broad, and it is IPEC specific. So when you're comparing programs, you want to look at like methodology and the different things that are included. What I can tell you, just right off the top of my head, something that I think that makes IPEC unique versus all the different coach training programs out there is we include a success coach. That is different from your mentor coach. We believe so strongly in the power of coaching that what's included in your tuition is you are given 3 sessions with your very own success coach, and they are there to help coach you towards your vision of success, whatever that looks like, because it's different for different people. Now, I could go on, there's lots of different things, but again, I just want to use our last 5 minutes with Dawn and just scroll through and make sure there's no other ICF particular questions. So what I would encourage you to do, Akif, is to reach out and speak with an admissions coach, and they can tell you all of the things that make IPEC unique. But when you are comparing it to different coach training programs, that's where you're going to want to use that 9 keys and that graph on the last page of the PDF, so that as you are researching the other programs, you can fill in that graph, and then you can start to build out something that shows you at a glance what the differences are based on what's important to you as well. Because you got to remember, you guys are all have different things that are important to you, and it's important to keep those things top of mind as well. Okay, so let's see. I think we've got time for 1 or 2 more. Elena, you asked, what are the full requirements? And I'm not entirely sure what you're specifically asking about. So if you want to throw a quick clarifier in there, I'll try to squeeze that one in. We're getting more questions about people being able to coach in different languages. Don, I think you answered that, and any language is fine. Is that correct? Okay, great. And let me check over here because I'm also getting other questions. Can you define what a barter hour is? I'm seeing that question come up.
Sure. The bartering is just coaching in exchange for coaching. Well, I mean, that's it in terms of the reciprocal peer coaching program that we have. Bartered coaching is just, I'm going to coach you because instead of exchanging $100 for that coaching session, you're going to work on my car or cook me dinner, et cetera, et cetera. There has to be this exchange of value in terms of it for it to be a bartered coaching session. Yes, that's what it is.
So a barter would count under a paid experience hour.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, no, it wouldn't. So that would just be a paid coaching hour. Bartered coaching would be, I'm going to, Heather, you and I are going to enter an engagement where we're going to coach. Sorry. You're going to coach me, but instead of giving you $200, I am going to go to where you live and fix your car for you, right? So, and I'm going to give you $200 worth of work, and that's going to count as a paid coaching session.
Okay, so they would record those in their coaching log under paid experience hours.
They could, yes, yes,
okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. We have another question here from, again, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I want to say Yuan. Yuan is asking, it's a long question, so bear with me. What is ICF doing? And Yuan, I'm gonna condense it a little bit here. Yuan is wanting to know, what is ICF doing to become part of the solution regarding racial and, I would say, ethnic diversity in the coaching industry in North America?
So thank you. That's a great question. And so we just basically put our voice out there in this, and really, we're based in Lexington, Kentucky. Breonna Taylor was in Louisville when she was murdered. This is all hitting us all at home, not only us who work for the headquarters and want to do something for this movement, but also we're hearing from coaches around the globe on this. What can they do? And we don't have anything specific right now in terms of what we're going to do, other than we want to support everyone who wants to change the world through coaching, and certainly anybody for example, who is an aspiring coach of a minority, we want to make sure that they have the same opportunities to come through and take part in this great profession as well. But specifically, I can't answer any more than that because it hasn't been articulated by the board. But certainly you have our support in whatever direction you're going in this profession.
And I'm going to try to squeeze in just a couple more questions here. We are at the top of the hour, so I understand I want to be respectful of everybody's time. If you do need to jump, completely understandable. Melissa has got a couple questions here that I think we can squeeze in. Melissa is wanting to know, is there an annual membership fee for the ICF? And
Yes.
She's also wanting to know what's the best way to advertise your ICF credential and the value that carries to clients.
Okay, great question. Our annual membership is $245 US. New membership is prorated throughout the year, and it goes down about $20 per month. In terms of the best way to promote yourself as a Credential Coach member, we have the Credential Coach Finder, which is only for coaches who have a credential and our ICF current members. Businesses and end users come in there and fill out RFPs to hire coaches, and more coaches and end users and businesses are coming in there to verify coaches. Also, with a digital badge, I would also encourage everybody, as you become an ICF member, to make sure once you get the credential, you're using the digital badge, not only in your email address, but also in your LinkedIn profile. Really powerful.
Okay, and sorry, Don, I'm going to squeeze in
Sorry.
two more, and then we'll be done. I promise.
Okay, we're good. We're good. I'm cool with this.
These came in at the last second, so
yeah.
At least they got to me at the last second. Steve is wanting to know, is there a sample coaching log for people to be able to understand? Is that available on the website so people can take a look at it?
There is, yeah. If you go onto the Credentialing tab, you can find it. Let me go there. But yes, it is there. And actually, you know what? You can. There is a there's a place to there's a search right when you go onto the website, and if you put in coaching log, it should be able to come up. You go right to the eyeglass search, and then coaching log. You should be able to.
Fantastic. Okay, and now I'm going to ask this one last question, and then we will wrap up and be done for the day because I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I hope we were able to answer the big overarching questions with the ICF. Again, gentle reminder, if your questions were IPEC specific, please speak directly with an admissions coach. I think we also have an admissions coach Q&A coming up. If that's true, because I could be wrong about that, Jenny or Jordan can put that information into the chat and you can register for that, or just go ahead and speak directly with an admissions coach. If your question had specifically to do with your specific situation, having to do with do these hours count or those hours count, we are going to direct you to ask the ICF individually because we can't figure that out in real time in a group call with Dawn because your profile is gonna need to be looked up and all of those things. So for any of those questions that didn't get answered, those are the avenues that you should take to get those answered. But I've got one question here from Ildi that I think would be great for us to kind of wrap up our time together on. Ildi is wanting to know, what are the benefits of joining the ICF and paying the membership fee?
Sure. So number one, I'd say the credibility of being a member and a credential coach of ICF, if that's where you choose to go. Also belonging to a chapter, getting a $200 discount on a credential is very favorable. We have a number of resource partners in terms of assessment tools, things of that nature that you may want to look into. And also, I like to say we have an incredible amount of professional development that's ongoing throughout the year through communities of practice and other means. And we do have an annual conference. It's every 2 years. Next year, fingers crossed, it's going to be held in August. I'm not going to say where because it hasn't been finalized, but a great opportunity to go to events, not only here in North America, but around the world.
Fantastic. Okay, I think that's it for today. You guys asked fantastic
That's great.
questions. I love all of the participation. And once we actually close this call, I can see that Jenny and Jordan have been very active in putting in lots of links and resources for you guys. And once we close this, the call will be over. But I don't want you to panic if you weren't able to copy and paste any of, all of the links that you wanted. You will be getting a recording of this call. It will be available to you. So don't freak out if the call ends and you're like, wait, I didn't get that link. So you should be able to see all of those via the recording as well. Or of course, you can always reach out to us and we can simply supply it to you. So you have avenues at your disposal if you missed anything, okay? So Don, thank you again. This hour always goes
Thanks,
by
Heather.
so quickly and I always learn something. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Glad to be here anytime.
Wonderful. Well, as always, everybody, thank you so much for all of your participation. And as I always do, I wish every one of you a life and a profession of your choosing. Have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week, and hopefully we'll see you at IPEC really soon. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.